1. Disconnecting and opening the machine. First, we need to disconnect the power before we do anything else. Make sure to unplug the machine completely. Now, pull the washing machine out into the middle of the room so you have a safe space to work. Next, we'll remove the top. To do this, you'll need to unscrew the 2 screws located at the back. With those removed, the top can be taken off. Now we need to remove the protective plate for the counterweight. You can see me removing that plate now. Now, as you can see, I'm removing the entire console, which includes the dispenser body. This completes the first step. The next thing we'll tackle is the counterweight. 2. Removing the counterweight and other components. Now it's time to remove the counterweight. Be careful here. This counterweight is very heavy, over 10 kilos, so take your time and don't hurt yourself. Now that the counterweight is off, what's left? The pressure switch. I'm removing the pressure switch now. Next, we need to remove the door seal, but first we have to take off the 2 door seal retainers, one on the front and one on the rear. Once the rear retainer is off, the seal will be free. Now, shut the door and lay the washing machine on its side on the floor. This makes it easier to pull the drum out. Working on the bottom of the machine. Now, we're on the other side of the machine, looking at the bottom. This is where you'll find the pump, motor, heater element, and temperature sensor. I'm now disconnecting all the wires from the motor. Now I'm removing the water sump. The sump is the part that connects the drum to the pump, as you can see here. Luckily, one of the wires is faulty, so I'll be replacing it. Now I'm diagnosing the problem. Look at the problem here. This damage was caused by coins left in a pocket. The coins went in and damaged the drum. This machine is less than 3 years old, but the main problem is that the customer forgot to check their pockets. Now this plastic piece I'm holding is broken off the drum. We have to replace the drum. I'm also checking the sump and look, I found more plastic debris. In my opinion, this customer doesn't properly look after their washing machine. They don't take the time to check pockets, and now they have to pay for a new drum and the labor to replace it. Removing the damaged drum. I'm now removing the drum from the inner cabinet. I'm pulling it out to the outside. As you can see, it looks new, but the damage means you simply can't use it anymore. It has to be replaced. Removing the motor. Next, we'll remove the motor. There are 2 screws that hold the motor to the drum. Just unscrew them and the motor will come off. This is a carbon brush motor. Removing the counterweight. This is the last part. We need to remove the counterweight. Make sure to remove the screws holding it. As I said before, this counterweight is heavy, so be careful. Once the screws are out, you can remove it. Removing the shock absorbers. Now we'll remove the shock absorbers. You can use a screwdriver for this. I also recommend that if the shock absorbers are old, you should replace them with new ones instead of reusing them. Comparing the drums and final advice. Now I want to show you a comparison. I'm holding up the new drum and the old one. You can see that the old one was also new, but the customer's mistake of leaving coins in their pockets led to this damage. Look at the big hole here that I'm pointing to. Water was leaking from this hole, which is why we have to replace the drum. You can't repair this kind of damage with glue because the temperatures inside the machine can go up to 70 or 90 degrees Celsius during hot wash cycles. Glue wouldn't last. I'm marking the damaged area just to highlight the difference between the new and old drums. So, what's my final advice? Always check your pockets before doing laundry. Your washing machine will last much longer if you do. Part 2. Reassembling the washing machine. Welcome back to part 2 of our tutorial. In the first part, we showed you how to dismantle the washing machine and remove the faulty drum. Now we are going to reassemble the machine. We'll be fitting the new drum, putting all the parts back together and replacing any faulty components along the way. We'll start with the door seal. Let's begin. Fitting the new door seal. Now, we are starting to reassemble the new drum. We've seen what caused the damage and what the customer should have done to protect the machine. Now, here is the new drum. The first thing I'll do is fit the rubber door seal. This is a new one that I am fitting and it has a specific direction, so you must make sure you install it correctly. There is a proper way it has to be fitted. Installing the door seal retainer. Now I am fitting the new door seal. A new drum needs a new seal. Next, we'll install the door seal retainer, which is a metal wire with a spring. First, make sure the door seal is properly connected all the way around the drum. Do a full 360-degree check. Next, when you install the retainer, a very important tip is to make sure the spring is positioned on the top side of the drum, from the middle to the top. This is a serious piece of advice. If you put the spring on the bottom side, there is a chance of a leak and the seal could even come off the drum. To be safe and to ensure a proper installation, the spring must always be on the top side. Now you can see that it's fitted correctly. Even if I lift the drum by the door seal, it is strong and secure. Connecting the hose. Next, we'll fit the hose that connects the drum to the dispenser body. I'll show you how it connects to the dispenser later. This hose needs to be installed with care and technical precision. Otherwise, it will leak. If you ever see a small puddle of water in front of a washing machine, usually on the bottom left side near where you add soap, it often means this hose was not installed properly. That's a common source of leaks. Fitting the counterweight. Now we're fitting the counterweight. Make sure you screw it in properly and don't leave it loose. There's no point in changing the drum if you leave the counterweight loose. Over time, it will vibrate, and within a few months, it will damage the drum, and both the drum and the counterweight will break. The cost to repair that, the drum price, plus the counterweight price, plus labor, will be very expensive. So, my advice to all engineers, when you fit the counterweight, take it seriously. You can use a power tool to get the screws in, but always finish tightening them manually. This is a serious tip for all technicians. Make sure it's tight. The purpose of the counterweight is to stabilize the washing machine and prevent it from moving. Installing the motor. Now we'll fit the motor. This is a carbon brush motor, but there are many different types such as 3-phase, BPM and coil motors. I'm showing you the most common type, the carbon brush motor. The motor is now fitted. Screw it in manually to ensure it's properly secured to the drum. Attaching the drive belt. Next, we'll fit the drive belt. Start by putting it on the motor pulley first. That's the easiest way. Don't try to use a screwdriver or any other tools. Just wrap it around the motor pulley, then spin the drum clockwise or counterclockwise to guide the belt onto the main drum pulley. Installing the shock absorbers. Now, it's time to fit the shock absorbers. Before you install them, make sure they are in good condition. If the shock absorbers are loose, old, or broken, there's no point in changing the drum because the machine will not be stable. The shock absorbers act as a suspension for the drum. If they fail, the drum will bang against the cabinet during the spin cycle and will likely break again. It's my professional advice that you always fit new shock absorbers to ensure the repair lasts. Placing the drum into the cabinet. Now I will put the drum back into the cabinet. When you do this, don't forget that there are wires all around, especially for the solenoid valve, the display, and the pressure switch. You must be careful not to damage these wires when you lower the drum in. Take your time and don't rush. Rushing will only cause damage and delays. As you can see, I am carefully putting the drum back into the cabinet. This is not a job for amateurs. You have to be a trained and professional engineer to do this kind of work. If you make a mistake and a cable cracks, it can be very difficult to find the fault. I am sharing my experience to make this process easier for you. I've been doing this job for over 10 years with one of the biggest companies in the UK based in London. Everything I'm sharing comes from my professional experience in over 1,000 customer homes. As you can see, I am working in a customer's house. We are now moving to the bottom side of the washing machine. This is where we will deal with the shock absorbers. As I mentioned before, always fit the shock absorbers manually. The shock absorbers are a crucial part of the machine's suspension, so they must be properly installed to support the drum. Next is the sump. This is the pipe that connects the drum to the pump. When you refit it, always make sure to check and clean it thoroughly for any blockages or debris like coins. I have already cleaned it and now I am fitting it. I strongly advise you to always clean the sump and check it for any blockages. Also, when you fit the sump to the drum, make sure it is connected properly all the way around. A 360-degree check is essential. If there is a leak from the drum, it can cause a lot of damage, especially if the machine is on expensive wood flooring or carpet. So, be very careful to prevent any leaks. Also, clean the hose that connects to the pump. You can use a cloth or a tissue to wipe it clean before you put it back. You must be serious when fitting the sump. You should also check the pump itself for blockages. On big jobs like this drum replacement, you should always do a full service. Check the filter and make sure everything is clean. Customers don't just call an engineer to pay money, they want a professional job and a full service. For example, if the motor is faulty, you should still check for blockages. This is my professional advice. Connecting the sump to the pump. Now I am connecting the sump to the pump. To do this, I am using a special clip and a specific type of pliers designed for this job. You can order these tools online. Make sure the clip is fitted properly to prevent any leaks. Don't forget, a single leak can cause a lot of damage. Wiring and cable management. Now for the wiring, we need to connect all the wires in the correct place. A helpful tip is to always take a photo of the wiring before you disconnect anything from the motor or heater element. This makes it easy to remember where everything goes and prevents mixing up the wires. I am now connecting the wires. If any of the connections are loose, I use my pliers to tighten them. I am connecting the wires to the heater element and the motor. These wires are for the motor, the heater element, the temperature sensor or NTC sensor, and the pump. Once all the wires are connected, make sure you don't leave them in a mess. You must use cable ties to secure them properly. If you don't, the wires will vibrate, especially during the maximum spin cycle, and they will touch against each other or rub against the moving parts like the belt and the pulley. This can scratch the wires, causing them to trip the electrics. If that happens, it can damage the motherboard, the display, and even the motor, which makes the problem much more expensive to fix. My advice is simple. Use cable ties. They are not expensive, but they can make your washing machine last much longer. This is the professional way to do it. From my experience, when engineers don't use cable ties, the wires get caught on the belt and pulley, damaging them and causing major problems down the line. Penal check of the bottom side. Now, I'm just doing a final check of the bottom side to make sure everything is okay. The shock absorbers are fitted, the wiring is properly connected and tied. We are now at the final stage of this repair. To make it easier to replace the drum, we laid the machine down on the floor. Now I have lifted the washing machine back into its proper standard position. Let's open the door and check that the drum, shock absorbers and springs are all fine. Next, I need to fit the console, which is connected to the dispenser body. As I position the console, I must make sure that the hose I talked about earlier, the one that connects the drum to the dispenser body, is properly connected. This is the small hose that requires special care. I'm checking it now to ensure it hasn't come out of place when I moved the machine. I've made sure the hose is securely connected to the dispenser body. Now it's time to put the console back in its place. I'm making sure it's straight before gently pushing it down. Don't use too much force. As you can see, the dispenser body opens and closes correctly. Now that the console and dispenser body are fitted, the only things left to attach on the top are the counterweight, the pressure switch, and the wiring for the solenoid valve. Securing the console and solenoid valve. Now I will secure the console with the 2 screws, one on each side. I've now fitted the screws and checked that they are tight. Next, I'm going to secure the solenoid valve with its screw, which attaches it to the cabinet. I will also make sure the wiring for the solenoid valve is properly connected. Reinstalling the counterweight. Now it's time to put the counterweight back on. Don't forget, this is a heavy part, so be careful when lifting it. Don't hurt yourself. I am now fitting the top counterweight. Most washing machines have 2 counterweights, a top one and a front one. I will now secure the counterweight properly and manually. We must never leave the counterweight loose. It will vibrate and eventually damage the drum. If a counterweight is not secured properly, it could even lead to the entire washing machine being scrapped. It's my professional experience that you must take this step seriously. I am using a power tool to get the screws started, but I always finish tightening them manually to ensure the counterweight is completely secure. Now the counterweight is fitted. Installing the counterweight protective plate. Now, look at the top of the counterweight. Most washing machines have a metal plate that is attached to the cabinet. This plate is used to protect the machine and the surrounding area. For example, if the counterweight were to come loose and separate from the drum during a high-speed spin cycle, this protective plate would help prevent it from causing serious damage to the washing machine or the customer's kitchen. Now, we are moving to the final stage of the reassembly. I am connecting the pressure switch. The purpose of the pressure switch is to control the amount of water that fills the washing machine. If there's a problem with the pressure switch, the machine might not fill with water at all, or it might overflow by continuously filling with water. This can cause a big problem. The pressure switch is a crucial part of the machine. It works in conjunction with the solenoid valve, which is the inlet valve that allows water to enter the machine. When connecting the pressure switch and the solenoid valve, make sure you connect all the wires properly. Fitting the door seal and the inner part of the door seal was fitted to the drum earlier, so now we will fit the outer part of the seal to the cabinet. Make sure the seal is fitted properly, because if it isn't, the door will not close correctly. Once the door seal is complete, we'll put on the kick strip, which is the cover for the bottom of the washing machine. Now the machine is nearly finished. The final step is to put the top back on the washing machine. Before you do this, make sure all the wiring is connected correctly. The wiring for the pressure switch, the display, the solenoid valves. Once you are sure everything is correct, place the top on the machine and secure it with the 2 screws at the back. Make sure the screws are properly tightened. Final preparation and testing. First, I am putting the washing machine back in its original position. Now it's time to connect the inlet pipe. Before you connect it, make sure the black rubber washer is in place and is in good condition. Then, connect the pipe to the washing machine and tighten it properly. If it's difficult to tighten by hand, you can use pliers. Next, you need to open the water supply. If the handle is broken, you can use pliers to turn it. Once the water is on, place the outlet pipe in its proper place, either in the sink or a separate drain. To prevent it from coming out, it's a good idea to secure it with a cable tie. Finally, we'll plug the washing machine in to test it. This is a very important piece of advice. Before you plug the machine in and turn it on, you should always use a multimeter to check the live, neutral, and earth connections of the socket to make sure the electrical supply is safe. I didn't record myself doing this, but it's an essential part of being a professional engineer. With the socket on, we can now turn the power on at the machine itself. The main problem with this machine was that it was leaking and flooding because the customer had left coins in their pocket, which damaged the drum. The final step is to check that the machine is now working perfectly and that all the parts are fitted correctly. Final functionality check. The display is on, so now we will test some of the programs. We'll check a rinse and spin cycle, a wash cycle, and make sure that water is filling correctly. For this particular machine, there are 2 solenoid valves, so I will check that water is filling from both. We'll also check that the machine pumps out the water properly and that the drum is spinning correctly. Before you leave, you must check all the key components. The door lock, make sure it works. Water fill, make sure it's filling correctly. Water pump out, make sure it's draining correctly. The spin cycle, make sure it's spinning correctly. As you can see, I am now spinning the washing machine to make sure everything is working as it should. Always perform a full test before you leave. The job is now complete. As you can see, the washing machine is working perfectly. I've tested the spin cycle and the pump out function, and everything is operating correctly. Because I was working in the customer's home, I used their kitchen as my workspace. It's very important to not only repair the machine properly, but also to leave the area clean and tidy. So now I'm using this towel to wipe up any water or mess from the floor. I always make sure the floor is left exactly as I found it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found these tips helpful and learned something new. In the future, we will see each other again with different washing machine topics. I promise you that this channel will cover all common washing machine problems, from error codes and blockages to leaks and limescale buildup. We will discuss not only the solutions, but also how to prevent these issues from happening in the first place. I will give you my professional advice on how to stop these problems, so you can keep your washing machine running for a long time. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.